topics brought into one section. I will give them 10 minutes. By the time you have 2 minutes to the time, they will give you a signal. Nobody should exceed 10 minutes. But I will commence with Lanesik Kukubo SAN, whom I have watched, his practice style. We fought it out those days. The once I won him, he went on appeal, and further went on appeal up to the Supreme Court, and many more. He has an opposite. I won't go further in that. But he has shown so much zeal in practice. And that is why he is here. And like I said before, he didn't just start when he became 10. He started when he was a junior lawyer. Let us hear from him. Listen to him, and let's see what we can get. 10 minutes.
Thank you, my lord. My lord, with your kind permission, I'd like to use this.
Please.
Thank you. So, my lord, I first of all want to thank you for telling us the secrets to how you confront us with authorities in court. We now know. Distinguished colleagues.
Just a minute. Let me appoint a timekeeper. No, I want someone so that once it is time, you move. Asimebo, you will be a timekeeper. Know when he's starting. Once it is 2 minutes to the time, you can notify him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank the YLF Port Harcourt branch for the MBA, the YLF MBA Port Harcourt branch for the privilege of addressing you today and having this short discussion, 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes talk on the applications and implications of legal tech in law firms in Nigeria. And forgive me, I'm not one for too much protocols, so all protocols duly established, I stand on all of them. So what is legal tech? It's important as young lawyers that you have the basic knowledge of what legal tech is. I've made a short presentation, set of slides in the course of preparing for this talk. And it refers to any software, technologically based, of course, that aids you in your practice. So as we're all seated here right now, whether we like it or not, from the handheld devices that you have, from the, iPhones, the iPods, the laptops that you have, you already have access to the possibility of using all kinds of legal tech to aid you in your practice. From my experience, even while sitting down here listening to the keynote address and the various Google messages, I found myself even walking, and I'll come to how that impacts on your life as a legal practitioner, simply because I had my handheld devices and I have to respond to all kinds of mails. Now, I believe I can use this. Yeah. So that's the definition, or at least one way of explaining it. I'm sure there are several other explanations. It's important for us to have a brief history of legal tech in Nigeria, just to get the foundation of what we're talking about. We're all aware of emails, and very few of us remember when emails became a thing. And this goes as far back as 1971. Even at that time, it wasn't essentially commercially available, if you will, to the general public. It was commonly used under what we call LAN, local area networks, or wide area networks of entities like the Shells of this world and NNPC. These were the corporations, the big corporations that had the need for that kind of mode of interactions among staff. So it wasn't something that was generally available to all of us, particularly law firms. And of course, this is from a purely Nigerian perspective. We're not going to talk about what was going on in the UK and other parts of the West at the time. And then gradually, I don't know how many of you recall something called CompuLaw. CompuLaw was some CD-ROM that was made available by a lawyer, Mr. Oladipo Bali. And what it sought to do was to give you access in digitized form to judicial pronouncements of the various courts across the land, particularly the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And I recall as a young lawyer, I used to purchase CompuLaw because it looked neat and tidy rather than having those bulky all Nigerian law reports or NWLRs. But it had a problem because you have to wait for a while for it to be updated, and there was always a convoluted process for you to get the recent authority. So it was always easier to go down the road just behind the High Court and just purchase the law report that you want. So that was an issue with that process, but it was technologically driven. Now it wasn't until the early 2000s that law firms across the country started actually availing themselves of legal tech at a very base level. You know, emails that allow you to communicate. We had something called a facsimile that allowed you transfer information digitally. And you stay in Port Harcourt, you receive a fax from Lagos or Abuja. If you wanted an authority that somebody you knew was well equipped had, you waited for them to fax it to you. You know, that was, they had to photocopy it and then they put it through their system, and then you wait at one point to receive it. It was a bit tedious, but at that time, guess what? It was considered the thing. But it wasn't, we were still not there. And then we now had what I'm sure a lot of us here are familiar with, Law Pavilion. Law Pavilion, I think, broke several crowns. Interestingly, and I'm sure in one of the panels they will be talking about legal entrepreneur, if not even owned by a lawyer. I understand Mr. Olugasa, Okpe Olugasa is an engineer. And he set up Law Pavilion, which is now more or less the rave of the moment, and we've used it in several forms. It has reduced the load that most of us have in the offices. Many law firms can brag that they don't have hard copies of Nigerian weekly law reports, because if you're not using Law Pavilion, you're using probably and you will see converge. So we have legal research. I've already spoken more or less about that. It's now easy. My Lord has already even given us a hint. While you were in court, if you've downloaded Law Pavilion onto your phone or any other portable handheld device, you are essentially a working library on the go. And this is how you apply legal tech as far as research of law is concerned in your favor. I've had instances in my early days where I was confronted, or I knew I was going to be confronted with all kinds of challenging questions from the bench. And sitting behind, go to my need and prepare myself, and guess what, look like a superstar that I'm not, simply because, no doubt, that as we say here, for you to get something good you need to spend money, and you should be prepared to invest. Seems to be doing. Most of you using Law Pavilion would see that it gives you percentages, rate of how old those authorities are, rate of, essentially what that does is it tells you it is better to use a particular case law than another when you want to argue a point. And I'm not sure that there's any better way of coming close to what we call artificial intelligence than when you actually deploy legal analytics. And it's something you're all encouraged to also deploy in your practice. Now, when a young lawyer leaves court, in all likelihood he's going back to an office. In very rare cases, it is the office that he has. But in the usual scenario that we find ourselves, he's going to an office that he's employed as an associate, working as a pupil counsel. And in that office, it's always usual to see files flying all over the place. In some offices in Port Harcourt that I've been privileged to visit, they have a room, they call it a storeroom. Sometimes you go there, you don't even know if it's a dumping ground or a storeroom, simply because all matters that have been ended, they just dump there. They are legal tech that enables you digitize your files such that you don't have, you can actually have an almost paperless office rather than have a scenario where you have files bunched up and kept in rooms that people are afraid of getting into. The point I'm making here is this: aside from the research that legal tech avails you when you appear in court, it also gives you an opportunity to actually manage your law practice. And that is what the lawyer who leads court would ultimately have to face. Now, there are a few other areas that I touched on that allows you to review voluminous documents, right? It allows you proper record keeping. On research, again, a point that you should note and exercise due care, which I'm sure Mr. Uzi will touch on, yes, is something called ChatGPT. ChatGPT is an AI that has, in recent times, put a lot of people in trouble. You impute something, it gives you an answer. Lawyers in some parts of the world have been known to run into trouble simply because they relied on cases produced by ChatGPT. And guess what? The cases were false. They were actually non-existent. So there is a downside to it. But as like I said, I'll just give a general overview. Mr. Uzi will speak a bit more on that. So let me wrap up by saying that legal tech has come to stay, and with it comes significant advantages. It allows for efficient running of your offices. It saves you time. We're all living witnesses, whether you hate it or like it, of the advantages which I would like to speak to at other events of rave commies, for example, in the judiciary. But there are other smaller aspects of legal tech that I've highlighted that you use in your offices also. It allows you to reduce costs in your practice. Of course, it improves knowledge. It gives you access and allows you to communicate with law firms, not just within your city, but also outside. You now have meetings on something called Zoom and Microsoft Teams. These are all technological aids that a lawyer can use to essentially be very efficient in his practice. The application of legal tech in law firms in Nigeria does not change the form of our work, but only enhances the mode to reach the aim of client satisfaction and a better justice system. In Nigeria, the advantages of legal tech exceeds the drawbacks. You can quarrel with me on that, but I maintain it does. The trends are simple to understand, and all of us can attest to that. I always say you become technologically savvy the moment you have your phone and you're able to use it without any assistance from someone. Simple to understand and entertaining to follow. But for a lawyer to compete in our home market or anywhere else in the world, they must master the fundamentals, which is some of the things I've spoken about, and which you have the opportunity of looking at, and become knowledgeable about how it works, which in turn will transform the legal profession and hopefully transform your practice as young lawyers so you become a lot better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard Sik. You respected the time. I'm grateful. Now, you note your questions. Once they are done, you will ask your questions. Young man called the uncle. Uncle, are you at home? He said, yes, I'm at home. He said, I'm coming to see you. Just as he got to the gate, he called again. Uncle, I've been calling you. He said, please, 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 I'm in a meeting with my client in US. He said, have you gone to US? He said, please, 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 you're disturbing my this, I'm in a meeting. And they stopped. Thereafter, when he gained access, he said, how did you do it? You told me you were at home. Now you are in a meeting with your client. Is it how lawyers do it? He said, come, there is something called Zoom. I was in an online meeting. So we have moved from traveling to US and then staying in the comfort of your home to have meetings, enter agreements, sign agreements, even execute agreements online. Beautiful for lawyers, including young lawyers. I would like Mr. Ero Jikwe to take the podium. Minutes.
My Lord, permit me to stand on the existing protocol.
Permitted.
And I also ask your indulgence to talk from the floor.
Permitted too.
Thank you much. Dear friends, my pleasure.
Just a minute, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Pa. You did well the first time.
It's 10 minutes, a very short time, but I'll speak very quickly. First of all, to commend the chairman and the organizing committee for a job well done. Listening to everybody who's spoken today, you will leave this room, I presume, with the thinking that the legal profession is a wonderful place to be in. And by the way, you all look very good. But, you know, when my EA called the chairman and his people, and they said a car will pick you from the airport, and they're going to take you to your hotel, and they kept to their word and all of that, I thought to myself, this is the first time in a long time that this has happened in the NBA. That shows dexterity in organization. And it's also the first time in months that any law body or organization has written to me without asking me for funding, for sponsorship or support. So thank you. I don't know what you guys think. I think radically differently. I think that we're in a crisis as a profession. And I don't think that all the things that have been said here about the young lawyers, that they're the right things to say. You know, we've been encouraging young lawyers, do this, work hard, that. And it puts out for the young lawyers too. What, and I want one person to answer this question very quickly because I like to have conversations. What is the biggest inhibitor to your success as a legal practitioner? Any taker very quickly? The biggest inhibitor, your biggest challenge. The Honorable Minister talked about a lot of challenges. What is the biggest challenge? Sorry? Money. Procrastination. What is the challenge? Okay, I'll take what the minister said then. The minister said that every lawyer in Nigeria, especially the young ones, suffers from the financial challenges of being a Nigerian and the financial challenges of being a young lawyer. And so, even to use technology, which is what I'm going to speak about in a few minutes, you need money, you need finances. I want us to leave this summit, which should enter into your communique when you have your conversation. In June last year, the Nigerian Bar Association National Executive Committee ratified YLF, you must push it. The day and time when young lawyers don't have contracts of employment or get paid in a zone where should be allowed to aspire. Otherwise, the barriers that we talk about will be too phenomenal and they can consume. So you also have a role, and I'm happy that there are senior lawyers in the house too. We are all challenged to do what we need to do to help the younger ones come up. We are going to talk about the impact of technology on continuing professional development. And I would like you all to take something from what I have to say today. I'm the chairman of the board of the Institute of Continuing Legal Education. And what we have done in that space is to democratize knowledge. Because lawyers are knowledge merchants. The only thing you trade is knowledge. I encountered a young man in Owerri one day and he said to me, all these trainings that you are doing, how do I use it in Owerri? Why would you achieve tenancy matter, land matters and everything? And my response was simple. I don't know 80% of my clients. They live in different parts of the world. I'll never meet them probably. Nowadays I prefer to go to my house in the village in Nnewi and work from there. Nobody knows where I am. It is the power of technology. We talked about Teams meetings, we talked about Zoom meetings. You can do anything from anywhere you are. You can be the kind of lawyer you want to be. So enough of about us giving people hope. Let's think about practical ways to make a difference. And in the work that we do in the Institute of Continuing Education, what have we done? We have used basically the instrumentality of technology. What is that instrumentality? Zoom. That you have over 10,000 people attending one training session. It's phenomenal. I would never have been able to do it if we had this kind to make sure that everybody participates who wants to participate, as long as they can afford the data to do so. Unfortunately, some young lawyers complain about not being able to afford the data, but that's business for another day. And also think of versatility. The fact that the world is becoming a global village. And those are one of the predicates, because technology is the biggest disruptor that is facing all of us. But that disruptor creates a huge opportunity for you as a young lawyer. The other thing that we've done with technology is to create a YouTube channel where over 200 training sessions are reposed. So anybody who subscribes to the channel MBA ICLE can just log on there and educate himself at no cost whatsoever. And we do these things at no cost because we believe that society must invest in younger people to create platforms of upliftment so that they can also aspire and do what they need to do, not just to give hope and speak mere words. About 2 months ago, we started a mentorship initiative. To the glory of God, we have, by the way, people say lawyers don't read or don't engage in knowledge issues. But today our YouTube channel had about 1,320 people in it, which is a huge number. Today we have a mentorship program, and my Lord Justice Audley talked about that, the one they have at the body of benchers. I mean, sometimes this mentorship thing is funny. If we understand the technology and how far technology has gone and the difference between one generation and another, you know that it's actually difficult to engage or create a mentorship program without thinking of the body relationship between mentors. So what have we done? We've created what we call ecosystems, communities, virtual communities, where people can interact with one another on a mentorship platform. We've created one-to-one mentorship sessions where you can actually mentor a group of people at the same time using technology, basically. And the technologies that we talk about are things that anybody can access. Yes, it's expensive, but if you look for them, you can find them. We are at the moment negotiating with an international agency to see whether we can create a virtual library where everybody can go and do their research and come and move on. These are the things that we talk about when we talk about the influence and impact of technology on continuing professional development. We're also going to have a free session for about 500 lawyers in Bayelsa State. That session we're opening up for everybody who can apply virtually. So whilst we are doing a physical training, it's also being live streamed and everybody can follow it. These are very simple things, but I tell you, the challenges that you face are deep. They're not going to get easier because Nigeria is getting tougher every day. I hear the dollar is at 1,100 today. And the impact is going to be most on the younger lawyers. I will have the chairman push that minimum wage issue. Also, make sure that your members know about the remuneration order. Use technology to disseminate it to everybody. Let them know that they can charge more money because of those things that have been done for their upliftment and upkeep. So, I want to tell you about what could happen in the future. And this is about artificial intelligence. One of the biggest threats to young lawyers in Nigeria is actually artificial intelligence. Why is it a big threat? If I want to do any research today and I give associates in my office, it will probably take them 2 days to come back with a response or a result. But if I put that same question to ChatGPT, I probably have 200 pages in 10 seconds or 15 seconds. And even though I would not rely on what ChatGPT tells me wholesale, or other 2 minutes ago. Okay, thanks. Even though I'm not going to rely completely on what alternative intelligence tells me, but I know that it is quite well resourced because it uses algorithms to pick everything that's on the World Wide Web and bring together a corpus of knowledge that will help you in your development and advancement. And so, just to round up, it will be to encourage every everyone in the room, in order to advance in the 21st century, you must understand technology. You must use technology. And it is not going to go away. 3 months ago, Steve Wozniak and Elon Musk, two of the biggest minds on AI, talked about imposing a moratorium on AI because AI has become more efficient and faster than even they had imagined it. And the reason why you must be attuned with technology, even as a lawyer, is that it has the capacity to wipe away even the profession. Why? Because the only thing that man has not built is what man has not imagined. So you must imagine and be creative and innovative as changes arise. Thank you very much.
I like the members of this session, very time conscious. Let me go to the ladies before I'm accused, because it's filtering out. But before we do that, while we were still going on with the last speaker, I noticed an aura of movement within the eyes. And I know that I had seen a picture within the ones here, and I had to match it. Most of us wouldn't know. We have the honor of being with us here, High Excellency Uju Kennedy Ohanenye, Honorable Minister, Women Affairs, Resource Person. You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much. So we'll continue. I will invite the lady very close to me to speak. 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, once again. The lady very close to him is Eunice Atwejide. Okay, when I was called to do this thing, I thought, wow, I was in the UK and it was almost like, no, I had to stop everything I was doing and come here because since I left law school, I think this is the first time I am able to speak to people I worked with, I schooled with, I've not seen in ages. I thought it was a really good opportunity. Thank you so much, Dr. Victor, Sotonye, David. Thank you so much for having me come out here today. It's such a huge honor, and congratulations for being able to put up such a beautiful and well-attended event. I envy you. Well done, guys. When I decided to become a lawyer, it was basically because I wanted to prepare myself for new challenges, especially after making babies. I have so many children. So I wanted to be able to protect myself and protect other people from the biases of society and from the unjust practices that we see all across. So I didn't want to be left behind. I wanted to safeguard against the repercussions of engaging with people who wanted to take everything that you possess in the name of doing business, because I was going through so much at that time in my life. I was getting duped, I was losing money, I was getting beaten up by people I loved, and I was being excluded from transactions and deals that I had conceived. So I wanted to become a lawyer so I can protect myself, protect the people I love, and potentially protect other people who will seek me out to do so for them. So I concluded that becoming a lawyer would enable me spot irregularities and more swiftly protect those that I really want to protect, and be able to help clients who would hire me to do same for them. But I soon discovered that being a lawyer is more than that. It is actually a calling. So it's an enormous responsibility, and it's a responsibility most of us lawyers in Nigeria have not yet recognized. We do not know how important being a lawyer is. It's almost as important as being a doctor and saving lives, because it is on us to protect everybody, every institution of Nigeria, and we need to begin to take that responsibility very seriously. I was recently yanked off the NBA platform because I would not cease speaking about the primary responsibility of our senior lawyers and the justices, senior justices of our courts for the problems we have in Nigeria today. Every one of us like to talk, but we don't really like to address the real issues. But I'm going to do my best to do that in the short time I have here today. Now, our lawyers, our magistrates, our judges, justices of the higher courts, and a lot of our senior lawyers are often willing to twist our laws, and by so doing, sacrifice justice, equity, fairness, and good conscience on the altar of technicalities. It's just the truth. They sometimes serve us predetermined outcomes influenced by other forces instead of the forces that should influence the results we get from our courts. The time to change that is now, and it is on us young lawyers to do it. It is common knowledge that our judicial arm of government is comprised almost entirely of lawyers, and this is to be expected. However, if we pause to examine the legislative and executive arms of government in Nigeria today, especially during the last 24 years, we would discover that they were mostly lawyers or are lawyers, and these are the people that have caused the problems that we are dealing with in Nigeria today. Just investigate, do your research, check all the political figures from 1990 to this day, and you will discover that many of them are lawyers or were lawyers before they became politicians or government agents or whatever they are today. So lawyers make up more than 50% of the personnel in all the three arms of government in Nigeria, and this has been the case for a very long time. So I'm not entirely off track when I tell us that lawyers are primarily responsible for the situation we find ourselves in our dear country today. So lawyers are in the best position to right the wrongs, and it is junior lawyers who should begin this process. We cannot sit back and wait for senior ones who created the mess to clean it up. They won't. So we must take responsibility and begin to systematically address the issues. We must learn to speak truth to power. We must work ethically. We must tell those that are around us who are getting it wrong to begin to do it right. It is a huge challenge. It is a huge challenge to stand up or speak up against our parents, our elders, our mentors, employers, our benefactors, especially when we know, like mom, dad, pastor, imam, doctor, professor, OON, NSN, DSSR, MFR, SAN. It's difficult to stand up to people who are that large to us and speak truth to them, but we have to try. And these are people we also look up to. Yet, many of them have significantly contributed to the creation and perpetuation of Nigeria's dysfunctional leadership and governance system. We hesitate to confront them because if we confront or oppose them, the consequences may be very dire for us and our loved ones. Some of us confide in me daily. I'm glad that my brother mentioned that there is minimum wages for lawyers. I never heard of it because a lot of us, some of us even here, told me that even till now they still earn 30,000 naira, which is the official minimum wage in Nigeria, and some of them are already nearing 10 years post-call. That's not all okay. And then let me not deny the fact that some of us are actually very happy to contribute and be part of the, let me say, unfairness and irregularities in our system. There are lots of junior lawyers who are very happy to do the wills and the demands of the senior lawyers who are not necessarily ethical lawyers because of the advantages to them. They get to have conferment that is not due to them as a result of being part of the difficulties. So, but we do know that a lot of us are definitely able to compete favorably with our seniors. A lot of us went to law schools or other schools or worked in foreign jurisdictions where we have been exposed to systems that actually work technologically, and AI, they work for us, and we are able to use these systems to help clients. And we will definitely compete better or even do better than our senior lawyers, but we cannot do anything because we are expected to basically do as we are told. to which I respectfully disagree. I hardly ever do as I'm told. If it's not right, I'm not doing it. So we do not have to continue in this path, because if we continue in this path, we are going to end up in a much bigger trouble than we are. We have the power to change the narratives, and the time to begin to do that is now. Young lawyers must work together to achieve financial independence. Two of our colleagues here and our minister had already told us that money is one of the biggest problems that young lawyers have, but we can solve that problem. I am calling on all the young lawyers in Nigeria that we need to now begin to work together to establish a legal entity which will look out for us and put good money in our pockets, and we can do it. I'm calling on those of us who are not seeking shortcuts, who are not looking for the shortest way to big money or who to swindle. Rather, I'm looking for those who are willing to harness today's and future technologies and innovations to create their own wealth, and people who are content with the earnings that their hard work affords them. My call is to those of us who want to work for their financial and career development, and who are willing to contribute to the new entity that we are going to build, and an entity that will foster ethical behavior and cultural change in our legal sector. We must as young lawyers have means to decline propositions that run counter to our best interest as a people, and then we have to have we have to be able to develop the financial growth and prosperity for all young lawyers. If we do this, we will see that ethical behavior become much more common between lawyers and judicial officers, and over time that culture will spread. I've seen you. That culture will spread into governance sector, because the future leaders of Nigeria are also those of us here today now. So we have the opportunity to shape the future, a better Nigeria that we desire, where our lawyers, our judges and our judicial officers, traditional rulers, public servants, politicians and influential figures who are all amongst us right now will uphold ethical standards and do things for the best interest of the people. Many of us who attended Nigerian Law School during the 2015 time remember what we did then. We actually worked in the 6 campuses. We developed, we set up platforms on WhatsApp, Facebook, where we're working in the 6 campuses to help ourselves to pass the bar finals. And quite a lot of us scaled bar finals at the first try, and many of us came out with first class ones and all, because we worked as a team. So we're able to use technology back then, and we called ourselves Wig and Gam Guaranteed, which we got from Olowoloni. His way of telling us that everybody must work hard, and if you work hard, you get the result. We had fun, but we worked also, and a lot of us came out of law school at the first instance and with very, very good grades. So we can replicate that system by implementing technology for our financial welfare as young lawyers. So whether we are abroad, whether we are in Nigeria, whether we are working for SAS or who we are working for, we can come together to create a platform where we are all working for the benefit of this country and ourselves. You make a lot of money using all these technological advancements, all the different areas where we are experts, bring it together and then figure out how to make sure that everybody is earning what they deserve, not getting whatever the minimum is and then having too little to look out for themselves, and then eventually being in the position where somebody offers you some stupendous money, you are tempted to do the wrong thing. We can begin to change all that by working together as young lawyers, taking care of each other's finances, not as charity, but as, okay, this is my expertise, this is what I'm able to do. We come in, we find you what to do, we pay you for what you are doing, and you're able to look after yourself and your family or loved ones. So it's time to stop complaining and time to start working together to build up a system, a working system where we can all make the money we need to make, be independent. By the time they are appointing us ministers, judicial officers, judges, whatever, we are still able to continue that culture of doing the right thing, being professionals and making judgments based on what we really believe is the right thing for whatever the circumstances presented to us is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Eunice, thank you so much. ideas, from ideas to execution. She started by charging you people up and ended with the ideas and the execution. What is important is the fact that the legal profession is a unique one. No one will run away from mentorship. But I have always advised seniors, while mentoring, carry along your juniors. As a young man I know, I came in, started practicing in 2006, and from that time I did cases with his senior, who will always announce his appearing with me. Now as a judge, he still appears with him, appearing with me. And I had to ask him, I said, Chief, this young man, can't you allow him to chew bone? You are still giving him milk. And everybody started laughing. I'm sure he understood what I meant. Mentorship is good, but allow them to go and face what happens in court. That way, you will put in the confidence required. As at 6 years practice, I had over 40 judgments. 6 years, 2012. And most of the judgments I got from BA Judgewell, now JCA. 6 years, over 40 judgments. Then 4 months practice, I had over 8 clients with over 8 files, my own. And I was working with A.G. Taria, a man who showed me all the support. He didn't want me to go to the Ministry of Justice. He will drop me in court and give me my 2,000 naira transport. He will take me to court and give me my file, say, go here while I go here. So from the first day, I started building confidence. Please, 7 years being a young lawyer is not meant for you to announce appearance with your senior. It is for you to prepare for the 10th year. You will need to show something when you are 10. I have a friend, he was called 26. By 10, he applied to be an SAN. And I'm sure he is. So, Kelechi, you will not go. Chinda, please come over.
Good afternoon once again. So, because of my topic, I was very deliberate about what I was going to wear today. And when I came into the hall, I had a bit of an issue with, I didn't know who she was then, but I later got to find out that she was a retired judge. So my topic is, why do we desperately need entrepreneurs in the legal industry? And I changed it because of my outfit. Why do we need entrepreneurs in the legal industry in a very conservative system? You go for law events, everyone is on black and white, navy, ash. But then, in the real world where you're hustling for your clients, no one is looking at your black and white because you have not stood out in the crowd. You are already assumed to be a marketer. You're coming there to get clients. But if you do something that catches the attention of the organizers, you definitely get a follow-up. And that's what I've done since my practice. So thank you to the YLF chairman and the chairman of the summit for giving me the opportunity to talk about me. So bear with me. This is not a motivational speech or an aspire to perspire, however they say it. But then, this conversation is a very, very important one, and that's because we are due and ripe for destruction in the legal sector, and we remain stagnant and resistant to change. For instance, in Rivers State, we have the e-filing, and I know how many complaints that come in on the platform every day from lawyers complaining that it was easier to file manually than it is now to file virtually. It is renowned, our profession is renowned for its strict adherence to traditional practice and reluctance to embrace innovation. And if you paid attention during the pandemic, you will find out that virtual law firms sprang up post the COVID. Pre-COVID, I was already working for a virtual law firm. I was in Port Harcourt. My firm had an office in Lagos, but I was practicing all the way in Port Harcourt. Now, to quote Richard Susskind, if you don't know Richard Susskind, please make sure you Google him and read one of his books. I'll also refer a book that he wrote that will help us going forward. Now, to quote Richard Susskind, he said, "We live in a time of greater and rapid technological progress than humanity has ever witnessed." So in my area of practice, we are dealing with generative works, AI, metaverse, etc. It's fascinating to know that in 2023, world's top 50 most valuable companies, no legal entity made the list, no law firm. However, you find out that all these companies all have a fully functioning legal department. So who exactly is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is anyone with a vision to provide new solutions for existing or emerging problems. However, when a lawyer becomes an entrepreneur, they are referred to as legalpreneurs. See how unique we are as legal practitioners. The legalpreneur's primary focus is the legal industry first, because they are required to adhere to the strict rules, tradition, and norms of the legal practice. Now in Nigeria, we have several legalpreneurs that have created legal tech companies such as Red Compass, Legal Niger, Start Button Africa, Pocket Lawyer, and Law Paddy. These companies provide regulatory compliance service, legal research, templates, blogs, law directory, law bookstore, and an online dispute resolution platform. These founders have leveraged their legal skills and knowledge to build successful businesses in the legal profession. So what's the significance of you being a legalpreneur in the legal industry? The financial pressure of the profession, innovation and globalization, and also the evolution of law firms with offices in multiple locations have led to the establishment of international law firms. For instance, in the UK, the Legal Service Act 2007 promotes competition in the legal industry by allowing the creation of alternative business structures that enable non-lawyers to collaborate with lawyers in providing legal services, which is impossible under the RPC 2007 and 2023. Now, why is being a legalpreneur important? First, it enables you to pursue unconventional paths, particularly in the digital era. Secondly, encourage cross-border practice, which encourages lawyers to be dual qualified and more business oriented, since we work with business clients. So what are the consequences of us shying away from entrepreneurship? A lot. So if you recall during the Learning Stick presentation, he talked about Mr. Ope, the owner of Law Pavilion. He's not a lawyer. But we had the NW era prior to Law Pavilion. True or false? True or false? Thank you. So again, we stand to lose a lot, primarily because of our reluctance to challenge the status quo or